Am I the butthole for taking my wife to Hawaii while her mother was dying in a hospital? My parents planned an anniversary trip to Hawaii with all my siblings and their spouses going. My parents were paying for the condos and we had a sitter for the kids. I had never been to Hawaii, so I was really looking forward to this trip. My wife had spent the entire summer by her mother's bedside as her mother's health slowly declined from cancer. Every summer, I got dragged into going into my in-laws with the kids. My wife spent hours on the phone with her mother every week. She was so close to her mom, and she lived her life according to her mom's wishes. So maybe you could say I was a little jealous of their relationship, but I wanted this one trip with my family after I sacrificed so many summers spending time with my in-laws. My wife knew how important this trip was to me. I thought her mom could just hang in there for a couple weeks during our stay in Hawaii, but we got unfortunate news of her passing halfway through our trip. Of course, my wife was miserable and really dragged down the tone of our Hawaii vacation. I admit I may have strong-armed her into going, but it was ultimately her decision to leave her mother's bedside. She never got over this and eventually left me years later. Am I the butthole for taking my wife to Hawaii while her mother died in a hospital? Honestly, OP, I'm gonna level with you. You're a real piece of shit. A real low-life scum. And I'm surprised that she didn't do more than divorce you. 5 out of 5 buttholes. And you know what? I think this comment sums it up best. You thought she could hold off on dying? You were jealous of your wife having a relationship with her mother? She really dragged down the moon after finding out her mother died? I refuse to believe this is real. What the f, man? You are the butthole times 100. Am I the butthole for leaving my husband for a Christmas trip to Hawaii with our kids? Every year, my family spends our Christmas in Hawaii. We've done it every year since I can remember, and it's a fun family tradition for me. After me and my husband had kids, we had to recognize our family Christmas plans because his parents wanted to see our kids for Christmas. So we decided that we would celebrate Christmas with his parents and New Year's, and then go to Hawaii on actual Christmas. This is the system that has worked until the last year. Last year, his dad passed away around this time of year, and it hit him and his mom hard. For obvious reasons, we didn't go to Hawaii. This year, we planned out what we'd do for the holidays early. We'd go do Thanksgiving with his mom, and we'd do Christmas in Hawaii since me and the kids missed it last year. Things were going well until right before our flight. About a week out, he said he was unsure. He said he thinks it might be better if we stay. He said that he really wants to spend Christmas with his family, and he felt like his mom really needed it. I was unhappy about this. We had made plans, we saw her last month, and we already had my dad buy our tickets and hotel. It would be incredibly unfair to me, my dad, our kids, for us just not to go because of his mom, who we'd seen a few days after we got back anyways. We got into an argument about it and agreed that the kids and I would go to Hawaii and he can stay there with his mom. He agreed to do this, but he was very clearly upset that I wasn't going to forego my family's Christmas tradition and seeing my family just for his mom. So now I'm in Hawaii watching and wrangling the kids by myself. He's at home alone. He have said texted me or responded to me much. When I call him, he only texts for about 3 minutes before wanting to get off the phone with me and talks to the girls. Am I the butthole? Personally, I'd give everybody a 0 out of 5 buttholes just because I feel like your husband's grieving, and yeah, he did make plans beforehand, but you know, you got a lot of stuff going on in your head when you have something like that going on in your life, so I can't really blame him for that. And I can't really blame you for wanting to go see your family with your kids, so it's just like a no butthole situation in my opinion, but I think this user down in the comments sums it up perfectly. I think not the butthole. You stayed home the first year after his dad passed away, and you had agreed to the Thanksgiving/Christmas arrangement for this year. He changed his mind after all the arrangements were made. However, I think you and your husband need to talk about this more. Where are he and his mom in the grieving process? How does he envision things working in future years? Does he want every Christmas with his mom now? Does he want to do alternative Christmases? Or is this year just particularly hard for both of them? Also, is there an option to have your mother-in-law join you in Hawaii since she's on her own? See, I think this is perfect. For one, you guys just need to communicate a little bit more, understand how he's feeling a little bit better, understand how the mom might be feeling, and then after you guys talk it out, make more arrangements to kind of compensate for what might be going on, maybe she could go to Hawaii, that'd be freaking awesome.
Am I the butthole for making a cake that my brother can't eat? So this year, me and my siblings are all spending Christmas at our parents'. We have a tradition where on Christmas Eve we'll eat a Yule log, and on Christmas Day we eat another cake. As my brother is vegan, I made him some brownies as an alternative to the cake, which he was more than happy with. The problem, however, lies with my brother. After suffering with health problems for a few years, he was told that he may have a gluten allergy. Not a major one, but one where he should avoid eating it. Before I made the cake, I was making some pastry for the mince pies, and since he doesn't eat them, I decided to just use the normal flour. Because of this, when I made the Yule log, I forgot to use the gluten-free flour and used regular flour instead. It seemed a little unnecessary to bake an entire new cake, so I just suggested to my parents that I could make another cake that's gluten-free, and that he could eat that tonight instead. My brother absolutely blew up at this idea, and had a rant about the lack of inclusion in the family and how no one makes an effort to accommodate him. He said he's going to be left out of the tradition now because he won't be eating the same cake. I told him that our other brother wasn't eating the cake, but this seemed to make things worse, as he pointed out how I accommodated one brother but not the other. I feel like I've ruined Christmas a little bit now. Am I the butthole? How is OP not being accommodating? She literally asked the brother if she could make him a gluten-free cake because she accidentally messed up the Yule log. It's not that big of a deal. He's kind of throwing a fit for no reason. OP, you get 0 buttholes because you tried to be accommodating for him, and he didn't want to take a dessert specifically made for him. However, your brother gets 1 out of 5 buttholes for throwing a fit like a child when you try to make something gluten-free for him. Like, everybody doesn't have to eat gluten-free just because of your dietary restrictions. Just take the dessert made for you and move on, man.
Am I the butthole for wanting to bring my cat back into the house after my wife's late stillbirth? My wife and I were expecting a child in October. We are in our early 30s and have been trying for a child for some time. Due to the character limits, I won't get into details, but it's been difficult. In February, we discovered she was pregnant. Obviously, we were over the moon with joy. We began to prepare. We did everything you could possibly do to get ready. We planned a baby shower and sent out invitations. We had a beautiful room with a custom-made crib by our father-in-law, who's a very talented woodworker, and we were extremely thorough in baby-proofing our own home. During the baby-proofing, my wife suggested that we, quote, get rid of my cat Bubba, who's 12 years old, and I've had since he was a kitten. I got him in college, I adopted him, and each of my 2 sisters adopted another kitten of the same litter. Bubba is extremely affectionate to me, so sweet and cuddly. He tolerates my wife, but is not affectionate towards her. To strangers, he's not nice. He's never bitten or scratched anybody, but he does a lot of hissing and yelling at people he's unfamiliar with. My wife was afraid that he would scare the baby, he wouldn't be welcome to a newborn, or that he'd hurt her. I argued gently, but eventually, I agreed. In the 28th week of her pregnancy, we sent him to live with my parents. He was not happy there. My parents said he cried all day and walked around meowing 24 hours a day, looking for me. Tragically, my wife and I lost a child just weeks before she was due. We don't have a lot of answers, and it's painful to get into. We mourned. We were inconsolable for weeks. I still cannot think about it without feeling complete agony and loss. After about a month, we returned to some level of normalcy, as normal as things could be anyway. We started to explore adoption. Last week, I told my wife I was going to pick up Bubba to bring him back home. She exploded. She said that under no circumstances would she allow him back in our house and that I had agreed to let him live with my parents. I missed him. He's been my best friend for years. He's been my loyal companion my entire adult life. She told me that I could pretty much choose between her or Bubba. I told her obviously I would choose her. It's not even a question, but that I didn't understand her reasoning and I felt she was being cruel. She lived with Bubba for 10 years and there had never been any problem. The adoption process can take 8 to 12 months on average, and I'd like to spend that time having Bubba around. We haven't spoken about it since. This is the first fight we've had, and am I being unreasonable or the butthole and wanting my cat back? OP, you're not the butthole. I don't think you should have had to get rid of the cat in the first place. However, you guys agreed to get rid of the cat, and that was the deal. So nobody's really at fault there. However, your wife did react a little harshly when reintroducing the cat, but who's to blame her? She's got a lot going on. I couldn't even imagine what it's like to be in that kind of situation. Maybe you guys should just talk it out more, maybe reintroduce the cat, and maybe it's just not good to reintroduce the cat in the first place because moving it back and forth might not be so good for the cat. This is a really tough situation, OP. I think you really should just talk it out more with your wife.
Will I be the butthole if I buy a bunny despite what my boyfriend says? So I was feeling depressed for a few months, so I talked to my boyfriend, and at first he was supportive, but after I told him that I was feeling a bit better, he went back to the way that he was before. And by that, I mean he spends all of his time watching his series and movies that I'm not interested in, so I didn't want to join him and he wouldn't even talk to me. So basically we're spending our days in our rooms. He doesn't like to cuddle at night, and I don't like the fact that he's snoring, so we have separate bedrooms. But the fact is that I'm still not fully okay, and he knows that. He just thinks that I'll get over it soon, which he told me several times, so I just stopped telling him how I feel altogether. And since I feel alone and I need something to hug, I was just thinking about getting myself a pet, but I wasn't sure what kind of pet would be best. Well, yesterday I talked with my mom, and she said that a bunny would be a good option because they love cuddles and they're easy to take care of, and I could leave them for a few days if I wanted to visit my family in Poland. So I started searching the web to see how much a bunny would cost, and I found one that I fell in love with. So I sent my boyfriend a picture of him, and he responded with a "mert." So I told him that I wanted that bunny. Well, he started saying, "Where are you going to keep him? And do you even know how much it would cost to keep him?" Yes, I do know, and I know that I can afford it. Now, I pay half of the rent and we split groceries 50-50. I do work, and I know that I can take care of animals since 1. I had a bunny as a kid, 2. I was taking care of dogs as a way of doing money when I was 13, and 3. I have a volunteer in a foundation that we're rescuing stray cats for almost 2 years. So it's not like I'm being unreasonable with it, because I know exactly what I'm getting myself into. My mom and sister are saying to get it and to not listen to anything that he says, but it's technically his house. We're renting, but his name is on the lease. And I'm not sure if that would be okay because it feels for me like I'm disrespecting him. So Reddit, will I be the butthole? Opie, yes, you kind of are the butthole. I think you deserve a 0.5 out of 5 buttholes, but Acrobatic Cover down in the comments says it best. You're the butthole. Bunnies are a lot of work, and they're not easy to take care of. And they don't love cuddles. They hate it, actually. Those videos you see of bunnies hanging limp as they're petted are actually frozen in terror. They're incredibly destructive, and usually at 3 a.m., they decide that they need to throw stuff around. They need a ton of exercise or they go stir crazy. And their cage needs cleaning once or twice a day, tons of fresh hay and veggies, and grooming. It's not a pet that you can just leave for a few days when you travel, WTF. You should not get a bunny. You should, however, get out of this crappy relationship and focus on your health.
He's at home alone. He have said he